sent me a list, an email that we'll go through. And through that process, I want to see if we can sort of discuss some of the divisions between the independent media. So why is the D&C strategy, divide and conquer, so prevalent in the independent media as well? And why haven't we bloody used our intelligence to override a lot of this psyopery and strategy that we're falling for, just as the masses are too. So welcome, boys. I'm stoked to have you here.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Phil. It's great to be here.
It's always fun to go on a show where we don't have to do the work.
Just kick back and talk.
That's
well, look,
right.
you guys have done an awesome job. You cover some great topics, not just in the conspiratorial realm, but also in spirituality, and just some stuff that you don't really hear that often unless you get into an echo chamber in the independent media. So the automated writing one, I really enjoyed that. I can't remember the lady's name that you interviewed there, but then Greg Doyle with his out-of-body experiences, and there's a great mixture of stuff. So for anyone interested or haven't heard of the Grimerica show, I really recommend it. Available on all your podcast apps, all that sort of thing. All right, so where do we start, fellas?
I guess wherever you like.
All right, well, let's go to the email that you sent me, Graham. The first point you made is podcasting and the importance of this platform right now. So how about you begin with just letting the audience know how he's got into this business and what he's trying to achieve.
Yeah, well, like you mentioned, the difference between independent media and the mainstream media, and the main. I mean, it's important that we're on this almost last platform of free speech. Really, I mean, I was just listening to a podcast today, and this guy was talking about how he got fired from his job because he made a tweet about his local political.
That could happen.
His local political guy who voted against single-payer healthcare or something like that, or in the States. I mean, so that's the level. That's the level that this type of thing is going to. You can't even express your view about a political decision in your state. You make a tweet about it, and the guy got fired. So, there's a lot of censorship going on, and we don't have any. We're not beholden to anybody. That's the main difference, I think, between a lot of our shows and the mainstream media is we don't have any advertisements. We're fully listener supported. And we can talk about whatever we want, and we can talk about whatever we want in the intro, and we can discuss controversial topics, and there's nobody tapping us on the shoulder, nobody saying that we can't discuss, how big pharma's, killing a bunch of people, or how vaccines aren't really good, or, and you mentioned spiritual topics and conspiracies, but a lot of this stuff ends up being connected because we're still living in this paradigm where materialism rules, and the skeptics still have their way, and all these topics like out-of-body experiences or spirituality or even psychedelic trip reports that we talk about, or UFOs or consciousness, or it all sort of blends into conspiracies because it's sort of breaking down the paradigm that we're still living under. I don't know if you want to build on that a bit, Darren.
Well, I think it was always good that we sort of, in the beginning, we never wanted to really corner ourselves into being a conspiracy show or being a paranormal show or a whatever show. We just kind of left it wide open as whatever we want. We added the caveat that we'd often be fringe, but it left us wide open to sort of, just plug away 1 week at a time, just grabbing different people that interest us. And people seem to be resonating with it. It seems like, not just us, it seems like podcasts in general are just ramping up at a really high rate, and cable subscriptions and everything else are getting canceled. And I think I've even heard a bunch of people that are just getting rid of their Netflix and shit now too. It's just like the retreat from the mainstream seems to be started, and radio's done. It's finished. It's over with. Satellite radio, I don't know, that might be able to hang on for another decade or so, but the smart money in satellite radio or even any radio is looking at transitioning into something else. And they're not going to be able to transition into podcasts because independent podcasts have already won the day. Shows like mine and Graham's and yours and, THC and No Agenda and these other shows that are just, they are the new, more people are listening to those shows than are listening to any local radio station for the most part. And I would say that over 50% or 60% of commuters now are starting to slowly switch over to podcasts. You know, it's less and less people, you know, having a podcast isn't as obscure as it used to be. That's for sure. So I think, you know, I think we've got a unique opportunity here, and it's almost some days you can almost take it as a responsibility to start pushing some of the more serious issues. But I mean, when you get caught up in that, it's a slippery slope.
But we really, you know, it doesn't matter how deep our programming, there's a little spark inside of us somewhere that's going, look, I've got this quest for the truth. And once that sort of loosens up, it breaks through, it might be a different, whatever catalyst, it doesn't matter. It could be 9/11 or the food system, it doesn't matter. Whatever triggers people to go, oh, wow, like I've just learned something completely new, and it's in complete contrast to the original paradigm I was under. Mine was spirituality, you know, just working out that this separateness, meaninglessness is just a lie. I'm connected on all these weird levels, but and that just, you know, that's where I went with that, and it just ended up into basically every area. I opened myself as far as I could possibly go in that quest for truth. So is that why you guys started this podcast? Is it you just found out some information and it was a bit of a trigger and just went, right, well, let's start talking about this? And what was it? What was the trigger for you guys?
Well, I was just a fan of podcasts. Like I had actually only been a
recent fan.
Yeah, I think I was listening to podcasts for less than a year before I was talking about starting one. And it was just like, I don't know when I was a kid, I kind of had a fascination with recording little radio segments and stuff like that. And I don't know what it was, but it just seemed like a venue to get into or a platform to get into, and the opportunity to just kind of start emailing anyone, asking them, having the opportunity to chat with them for a while and ask the questions that none of the other shows seem to be asking.
Yeah, and I was listening for years, probably since at least 2007, maybe 2006, to podcasts all over the place. And I remember one guy saying to me, well, maybe you could start your own one day. But that was years before I met Darren. And then we went to a conference together, and we met a bunch of people, like speakers, and we talked about ancient mysteries and all this. And we just thought, you know what, we could do this and have interesting chats with super fascinating people, and like Darren said, ask your own questions and just explore. So, but we didn't really have a huge conspiratorial awakening at that point. I mean, I was already well down that road. I think I'd already been through, like, listened to all kinds of skeptical and science podcasts, and then gravitated from that after the amount of ridicule that I heard, and the way they treated, let's say, just people that had seen a UFO, for example. I just gravitated towards the more fringe topics. And I mean, we're talking about a medium that you could learn anything you want to learn about. People are talking about for free. Like, when have we had that opportunity to go deep into any subject? Like, if you name any subject, you can find a free podcast on it. I mean, it's amazing. And people have like you were talking about, people have this need for truth. They want to learn. People want to learn stuff. And I think now they're finally finding this deep hole of podcasts that people just, you know, they're talking about whatever they want. So we had an opportunity to discuss these controversial topics, and we don't even go that deep. I mean, it'll be interesting once we get into some real heavy stuff, like if we were to approach.
Yeah, that's because we don't pretend to be experts on anything. We're just laymen.
Yeah. Yeah, we're just talking about it. So I mean, that's the main thing, is just to have a conversation. An honest conversation without, you know, editing the shit out of it, and I think that's resonating with people. That it's not fake. It's just as real as we can be. And then what's happened is it's led us to our own personal growth and journey into spirituality, and we've been through different stages ourselves into exploring, you know, how to get healthier ourselves as well on different levels.
Yeah, it's been a ride. It's kind of like just a personal thing, you know, in a lot of ways, that started out mostly, you know, just assuming it was going to be a couple of people listening, and now it's just become this sort of wave. And then it becomes a responsibility. So even if we're not feeling up to doing an episode, it's like, well, fuck, there's a bunch of people that want to hear the show. So that's good.
The ride will continue, guys. It doesn't stop, does it?
No.
No, I wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah, bloody oath. So you mentioned the the idea of independent media taking over mainstream media. And that's obvious because the mainstream media is highly propagandized. Obviously, we've over conspiratorialized within the independent media on many levels, and that scares a lot of people off. But that search, that quest for the truth, it's got that attractive force, and people are sort of got real no option if they're going to be authentic to themselves to at least go and journey through it. But there's been an effective bloody strategy by the tip of the power pyramid, whatever you want to call it, the control system, to put people in their echo chambers. And over the last few years, it's been bloody obvious to me with the algorithm and sub-algorithm changes and then how they manage it all on your sub-control platforms such as Facebook and YouTube and whatnot. And you also mentioned in this email, after mentioning the importance of the platform, the risk of friends and colleagues getting silenced or forced within lines. So what have you guys witnessed in terms of the algorithms? Have you seen the echo chamber in action? And have you heard about people getting silenced or forced within particular lines?
Well, I'll start off.
We've been waiting for fucking YouTube monetization for like 3 months now. We're still in review.
Really?
Yeah. I don't think we're ever going to get approved.
No, not now, probably. We probably came to the YouTubes a little too late for that.
Yeah, but you go ahead.
Well, I remember years ago, so this is before the echo chambers really even came into being. I'm thinking back about 7 years ago, maybe 6 or 7 years ago, how everybody was starting to share ideas on the internet, and this is when podcasting was kind of coming about, and probably YouTube as well. But I would have thought that with all this information available to everybody, that we would have been able to come as a society to closer to a common truth in the middle. And what we ended up seeing is everybody going to polarized sides and this extreme viewpoints.
Oh, we got.
And that was disappointing because all of a sudden, if people have these belief systems and these core belief systems or these world beliefs, that they're going to just pick and choose whatever information they find to reinforce that, and they'll ignore the rest. And that was kind of, I don't know, it was kind of disappointing to me to realize that this is going to be way more difficult than we think to get to the truth in the middle. And then, couple years after that, they started. I think that's when the algorithms really started kicking in for Facebook and YouTube and Instagram. And I know now that I experience our Instagram. I'm on Instagram a little bit for the show, and I experience the echo chamber in there for sure.
I won't even go on Twitter anymore. I've fucking had enough. I just can't.
I've never actually used Twitter at all.
So Darren used to be the Twitter guy. That's how the show started. Darren had a Twitter account 5.5 years ago, and he had a few hundred followers, and that sort of became a tool for our show. Right?
Yeah.
And it was helpful.
Because I already had the Grimerica name, and we were like, oh, well, we'll just fucking run with that. So we just switched.
While you're on that, where did Grimerica come from?
Well, it was from a poker game. I didn't even write it. I think I said it. I was drunk, and I think I said it, and then my buddy Jerry wrote it on the table in permanent marker. Just said Grimerica, and then I made that my Twitter handle for some reason. That became my poker name for online poker, and then
for online poker, I thought you were at a table.
Yeah, that was both.
Okay.
Online poker, yeah. And then just kind of
because his name's Darren Grimes, right? So it became Grimerica.
Yeah, and then so we ran with the Twitter handle, and then now I think there's tons of followers at 40,000 followers or something like that. But it's just whenever I go on there, and I'm sorry to those people, but it's whenever I go on there, I'll look at the ats maybe once a day and see if someone tweeted at us, I'll reply or something like that. But as soon as I start looking in the timeline or even at the news that's on there, whatever, it's just completely fucking toxic. And it's just, that's what it is a bunch of echo chambers fucking hurling rocks at each other. And it's these people are getting me worked up, and I just can't have it anymore. So I just fucking got rid of it.
Well,
I deleted the app.
You're weaning yourself off.
I deleted the app. Once I deleted the app, that really slows you down because now I have to go to the website and I got to log in, and it's fucking way shittier interface. So Now I'm down to, I'll check the Twitter once a day. And now I've got to the point where I've shut off my email notifications and stuff like that too, because I've had enough of all that.
Yeah, well, think about the amount of bloody change that's happened in the internet and tech sphere over the last sort of decade and two. Things are going to change. We're going to be moving elsewhere. It's just whether or not, there's alternative sites like Minds.com or Steemit. There's a blockchain-based crypto one, and there's also BitChute and places like that. So we might end up moving to different areas as well.
Yeah, exactly.
What are you showing me?
Well, I just popped onto Twitter to see if I could get onto our account, and this popped up. It just defaulted
the
to
hashtag Pride 2018.
Is happening, yeah. So
you
is
go.
that
That's
an
the
advertisement from Twitter? Is that Twitter's homepage?
I don't know.
Oh, so now, okay, so hashtag Pride 18 is the Twitter's homepage, I guess. Yeah, 62 million. So, okay, there I have to go into here just to see. Yeah, there we go. Lots of.
What about Facebook? Did you have a Facebook account?
Yeah, that's where most of my audience, where I built most of my audience was on Facebook, and it's just deteriorated bad over the last 2-3 years.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what? It's almost a blessing in disguise, man, because getting off of those networks makes me feel better. I can notice it. Like, I think you go through a weird little crash, but then you come out the other side and it's just better. I just feel better. I'm in a better mood generally. I'm not up to speed as much as I used to be on stuff, but that's okay. So it's kind of a price you're willing to pay, I think, anyway. It's almost too instant.
Yeah, well, you still got to spend that time, that little bit of time, posting your shows or whatever it is. But like that stuff, all 5 minutes, and then you're done, and you don't have to spend your time monitoring and any of that stuff. But all right, getting up to speed. Let's move on. Let's dive right down deep into some of the stuff that you guys have covered, such as UFOs, aliens, multidimensional beings. What's going on there? From your point of view, you've interviewed some people around this sort of stuff. Have you got some sort of, or even a bit more clarity than what you had walking into it?
No. That's probably worse.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't have any answers.
There's
to be honest
more
with
possibilities.
You. Yeah, it gets more complicated.
I learned things now that I didn't even fucking consider remote possibilities fucking 6-7 years ago. So now it's if anything, it's just muddied the waters. My personal opinion is that it's got something to do with DMT in the brain in most cases and a lot of military shit.
What do you mean? Like, what has to do with that?
Well, like the grays and everything, I think there's a real correlation kind of with how people see the same shit when they smoke a bunch of DMT.
Yeah,
they see, not grays, but everyone talks about the same stuff, machine elves or this or that, and I'm gonna smoke some DMT soon, and I'll fucking tell you.
My belief system is kind of it's a bit of everything. It's a bit of ET, it's a bit of interdimensional stuff, it's a bit of black budget stuff flying around, it's a bit of military, my lab, like deep state stuff. It's just all over the map, I think. I mean, I think there's room for all that in there. There's not one.
If it's anything like the weather modification shit that we're learning about, then that's what it's just like fucking a bunch of people with their own fucked up agendas.
Yeah. Different groups.
Here? Yeah, I think he's been swearing.
Different groups, fighting over whatever kind of secrecy they have or whatever kind of power they have through secrecy. I mean, I think that's what the whole disclosure thing is. It's kind of like a deep state battle right now, and that disclosure might be like a little pawn in that battle going back and forth. If one discloses, then the other one's going to have to probably, a little bit of their secret will be revealed or a little bit of their tech will be discovered, and that's kind of what I think's going on with that. Most of it's man-made shit flying around, I believe. But I've been out doing my own meditations in groups to see enough weird shit flying around in the sky that unless there's really deep monitoring of black projects and people coming around and watching what we're doing, which I don't really think. I mean, I leave room for that possibility, but I don't think they're doing that. What's so funny?
You don't leave
I'm
any
just
room for
saying.
that possibility.
Yeah, of course there is. But the chances are, like Occam's razor would say, it's probably
aliens.
fucking ET.
That's the Occam's razor.
Well, yeah, when you meditate and you look at and you see shit happening in the sky, what are you supposed to think?
You're crazy.
Right? Yeah.
So, have you guys seen shit in the sky? But what about aliens, or have you had psychedelics or meditations where you've actually met other beings or alleged beings?
No, I haven't. No,
me either. I've seen a thing. I've seen a UFO. It was just like the satellite kind of fast walk, and it was just a UFO, a satellite that changed direction. I don't know what it was.
my.
Well,
Go ahead.
when you have this DMT experience,
I haven't
Darren,
yet.
Yeah, when you do,
okay.
You're likely to come across something. When I first tried it, I looked up into the tree above me, and it looked like it was made out of cartoon, like a cartoon money thing. And then I looked down, and I was able to see directly through my legs and directly into the earth, about 2 or 3 meters. And I was like, "What the fuck is going on?" The mate said, "Just lay down and close your eyes." So I did that. Went flying through a bloody tunnel, like a wormhole type scenario. Got split into about 10 or 12 different layers, and I could see through 10 or 12 different perspectives. But the most prominent one was the one in this, 10th dimension, whatever the fuck it was, as well as the where I came from, at the start of the wormhole. It was like I was in slices in a way. And then in the most furthest perspective, I met 2 beings. One was full alien or full multidimensional. The other one was half multidimensional, half alien. And I still had my ego properly intact, even though I was like, it was a different experience of my sense of self. Because I was being cheeky in the experience, laughing, going, "Oh, what the fuck's going on here? This is out of this world." And the being, one of the beings, the full alien, telepathically spoke to me and said, "Hey, nice to finally meet you," and held out its hand. And I was like, "Yeah, fucking nice to meet you too, mate." On one side of me, I was being sarcastic, but on the other side, I was like, "Yeah, nice to meet you too." So I was like split telepathically in my mind, and was only radiating a certain aspect of myself to this other thing. Anyway, it said, "Don't wait so long to come visit again," or something like that. And that was it. I collapsed all my 12 layers, shot out through the wormhole, sat up, and just going, "What the hell happened?" And you probably heard these descriptions before, but it was so vivid. It was so vivid, and it felt more real than this reality. Have you ever heard that before?
Yeah, lots. Yep,
yeah.
Lots. Yeah.
Yeah, so I walked away just going, "Look, there's 3 potential options here." That was very real. It was totally unreal. It was totally just a figment of my imagination, or as an amalgamation of my perspective and how I distorted it into like having a cultural or individual lens on life, so to speak. And you mentioned that before too, Graham, and I think that's a really important point, that a lot of this UFO exposure that people are experiencing tends to be connected to their consciousness. It can even be connected to group consciousness. So several people can be having these experiences, seeing things in the sky, and it tends to move in accordance with the collective thing that's going on between these people, to the point where there are actually other people in the vicinity that don't experience it, don't see it.
Yeah.
So it's like, all right, so that's clearly not a nuts and bolts thing at that point.
Yeah.
It's clearly not some military black op project where there's a physical thing in the sky. It seems to be materializing physiologically, or through lights, or what I don't know, it could be plasma. Who bloody knows? There's a material aspect to it, but it seems to be connected to consciousness. And so I guess that's a good segue into consciousness, because you did mention that on the list. What have you discovered through your podcasting and just your private research about what's going on? Because this materialist paradigm is an absolute joke. I think it's one of the most destructive philosophies there are, because it inherently means that ethics is a chosen thing, not a innate thing to reality. Because if you're connected to reality, you have an innate obligation to respect that reality because you're part of it, if that makes sense.
Yep.
And so ethics is a natural code of some sort of connected philosophy. But there are still people, like I saw this video of Neil deGrasse Tyson, who said that is debating whether or not consciousness even exists.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, the only thing you've ever fucking done is had a conscious experience. How could you deny the only thing that you've ever had the exact existence? So, it's a very convoluted discussion, but and there's it's hard to answer. But what are you got? Where are you guys at with consciousness? How does it fit in your model? What did you want to talk about when you mentioned in the email?
Do you want to go there?
On consciousness?
Yeah.
Go where?
I can start if you want.
You can start.
Well, I mean, it's important. Like, it's one of the most important things.
I think
and
it's key in everything, really.
Yeah, and it's complex as well. So when I had my UFO sighting in Israel in 1990, I walked into this rooftop hostel. I was staying there, and I saw a bunch of my friends on the other side of the roof, and they were pointing up at the sky and yelling and screaming about seeing this UFO. So I ran over to them, and I was excited, for them, but I was pissed off because I missed the sighting. And I was asking them, "What'd you guys see? What'd you guys see?" And I looked up and I said, "Please come back, please come back. I want to see you too. I want to see you too." And then I spotted this polygonal shaped object. It was like a dodecahedron, like a 12-sided dice, split in half, rotating against itself, and the whole thing was also spinning on its axis slowly. No lights, just reflecting the moonlight, silently traveling through the sky, like at about let's say a loonie or a quarters at arm's length. So it was close enough to see that it was a craft flying through the sky, and there was some consciousness aspect to that, and yet I talked to the two girls by email that were from New Zealand who were with us there a couple of years back in the podcast. We kind of made a little segment out of it. And it didn't even affect them. Like, they just fucking brushed it off as, "Oh, I thought we were drinking too much that night," or something like that. And then me and this English guy named Dave were on a kibbutz working in cotton picking on a kibbutz, and we were excited about it. And we were telling this guy on the kibbutz, and he just, like, he wouldn't even believe us at all. But I know that it affected Dave, and it affected me. And I'm trying to get a hold of Dave. But, I mean,
Dave
I don't even know where I'm going with that story, but consciousness plays an important aspect. And I've had a couple of spiritual experiences where I know that I'm just not my body, right? There's something else there. We're connected, like you said. And I think that the science and spirituality right now is, like, you've had guys like Sheldrake on and Greg Braid and all. These guys are doing amazing work. I mean, there's so much science and spirituality being combined now, but yet it's still we're still stuck in this other paradigm. So I think it's really shifting. It's shifted over the last few years for sure.
Yeah, it's picking up speed.
As people, the most important thing I think, which is opening it up, is people being able to share their experiences. I mean, all of a sudden people start sending us emails and saying, "Hey, this has happened to me," or "This has happened to my loved one." And I think that's what's changing the paradigm, is people becoming open to finally share that experience. And then that itself is, I think, tearing down that materialistic paradigm that we're living in. I mean, I really do think we're winning that battle.
Seems to be. And consciousness seems to be at the root of everything we talk about, whether it's the war on drugs, which is ultimately a war over your over your consciousness, and whether you can alter it and in what ways you can, and
the food,
that's affecting your consciousness.
The water.
It all boils back to that. So if I think we've said before that if we had to pick a core theme for the show, that would probably be it. The consciousness that would be the main theme. And I mean, for me, it's probably psychedelics was my most, my experiences with psychedelics are what kind of drew me into the fact that it's all sort of connected and one, and it's all about the love, man.
Yeah, well said, mate. Well said. And you summed it up really well too, in terms of you said that it's the root of everything, right? Well, what we're talking about, and that relates to what I mentioned, is that sure, we can measure the materialist world with all these fine instruments, and it's all fine and dandy. But at the end of the day, you're only having an experience of matter through your conscious experience, and so it's not just the root of all of these discussions, it's the root of our actual experience. And it blows my mind, excuse the pun, I guess, that people are trying to reject that. That's literally, you're not your body. You're not only, the atoms that make your body, you're having an experience, which is a body, right? So you're having an experience of a body in a material world and all this stuff. but all it is an experience of consciousness. And so, yeah, there's been. Sorry, you were going to say something, Graham?
No, they look on one hand they acknowledge the placebo effect and use it as a baseline, which they can't explain. It's fucking mind over matter. And on the other hand, they want to just reject the whole extended consciousness thing. So is that not a contradiction right there?
Yep, exactly.
And then they cram sex and violence down your throat all day. And wonder that, because placebos must have what is that law? Every action has an equal and opposite.
Yep, that's fear, isn't it?
Yeah, so that means if you can think yourself good, then that means they can trick you into thinking yourself bad.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, that comes
placebos and nocebos, or oh fuck, I must have this, I must have that, I bet I have cancer. There's enough fucking shit that's giving you cancer that you don't need to be thinking you're having cancer all the time, because that plays a fucking role. Don't think you're a piece of shit, because it's gonna make you a piece of shit. That all boils. It's the placebo effect tells us that, at least, that watch what you're fucking thinking about, watch your thoughts.
And that actually goes into the occult world too, because we know that that magic and this mind manipulation, belief control, all this sort of stuff is a very real agenda by these, let's call it a dark occult sort of force, the forces in that area. And they are implanting seeds of fear and self-hate and all these issues that are manifesting in all this sickness and stuff.
They're gonna blow up. They're trying to boil over the melting pot. In a lot of ways, it seems like that's the. Well, actually, no, that's not true. I take that back. It seems like Europe's the tip of the. Europe seems to be the. I don't know. Maybe it is America. It's Europe or America that seem to be in the biggest turmoil right now. Now, maybe it is the U.S., eh? The U.S. for ripping itself apart.
Europe's been saturated with all these immigrants, and they're trying to tear it from the inside out based on this. I mean, I'm all good for multiculturalism on some sort of level, but you can't saturate your society with fragmentation and all this warring that goes on culturally and ideologically. It needs to be an assimilation or a transformation process over time, and it needs to fit into the boundaries of society, because otherwise things collapse. That's how it's happened. So but in terms of America, it's more of from the inside out, the mind, isn't it? Because people are just propagandized to such a huge degree.
Two different directions, and then to hate each other. That's where it's crazy. The amount of hate that's building up right now, it's like, come on, man. Come on.
It's unbelievable. The left-right politics divide, it's so shallow, but so many people are still stuck in it.
But that's where the independent media, at the beginning of the show, you're talking about what's important and what do we touch on to get that truth, right? And what are the things we should be talking about? And that's where the tricky part is, and that's where we have to be able to talk about things like Pedogate and these real darker occult things that are going on without being silenced. But I feel like some people are probably already getting to that point where
Yeah, no, I got the warning.
That's perfect timing. Look.
I didn't want to. Uh-oh.
No, he's going to have to start it. He has to start a new room.
Yeah, he's going to have to start a new room.
Yeah. Was he in our Zoom before?
Yeah. I don't know why we didn't.
Yeah, I got in. I came late. I was late.
Oh.
Did he know we were streaming it?
You're not streaming it, are you?
I'm not streaming it.
Are we?
Yeah, of course.
On YouTube?
Yeah. I noticed halfway through, and I was like, I wonder if they talked about that.
I didn't know I wasn't supposed
to. No, it's okay.
I'm sure it's fine.
Yeah, I'm sure it's fine, too. What should I do here? Are we still streaming?
Just wait for him probably to email.
I think it's going okay. Should I go on our Zoom?
You could.
And send him an invite?
Oh.
Wow.
There's Brody. Oh no, he's not on the thing.
Oh, he's here. Oh, we got a new link.
New link.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just say the number.
It's 726 650 474. 726 650 474.
Back.
All right. All right.
Hey. I don't know what happened then. It said that the free meeting is over. That's never actually happened.
Oh, that's weird.
It might be because there's 3 participants. If you know what I mean. I don't know. Maybe Zoom's got a limit.
Yeah.
Yes. So it might be half an hour meeting. I'll just amalgamate them together. So hang on, let me press record. You remember where you're up to when that cut off?
Yeah.
Who was talking?
I was.
Okay, good.
All right, we're back. Graham was interrupted by who knows what. But yeah, go for it, mate.
No, so I was just mentioning how I don't know. We have to be careful about sifting through the truth and the alternative media, and the alternate media is, I think some people are possibly being compromised and they can't talk about certain things. I mean, and when that becomes, I think we're in trouble when that becomes an issue if we can't discuss the darker occult side of the deep state or pedogate or whatever it is. Or even guys like Joe Rogan who can't even discuss climate change with it right now without, he's a prime example of somebody who's learned a bunch of stuff. And you can tell that he's not putting that into his current shows. He's basically drawn a wall and he's saying, I've got this line here that I cannot cross, and now the 97% of climate scientists fake bullshit is real, and he's not challenging the scientists that are coming on with their dogma, and he's not doing what he used to do. So I think he's been compromised at some point. I mean, I don't know how deep it goes, but he's definitely shifted.
Damn it.
And he's got a huge audience. He's going to be, like Darren mentions his show as an example, that he's going to be overtaking a lot of the mainstream media now.
He already has.
And he's already showing, obviously, his true colors, that he's not as open-minded as he comes across.
Or he's not allowed to be.
But I think that's also, a risk of happening with other shows as well.
That's why we don't have any sponsors or ads.
But we'll see if we do a show on pedogate, we'll see what happens. I mean, if we get into the pedophilia, I think that's kind of like one of the core issues that'll get you really censored or really, what do you think, Darren? I mean, vaccines is almost a pretty bad one already as well. I mean, we didn't get too much negative feedback from that one. But I feel like the regular UFOs and consciousness stuff and spirituality and paranormal is all like sort of surface level. But when you get into the deeper conspiracies, like pedophilia or vaccines or geoengineering, maybe even, it's
with political stuff too.
Yeah,
It'd be a slippery slope.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's certain things. I mean, YouTube's a prime example of just booting people the fuck off for, not towing the line. So, I mean, hopefully podcasts can elude that. I mean, we've got the bonus of audio being, real small and easy to compress, so we can host it ourselves if we really need to. But, yeah, I don't know where I was going with that.
Well, how do we tell if our colleagues and friends have been, compromised, or does it matter? I mean,
we just got to compromise them back.
Like, what do you think, Phil?
Yeah, negotiate the shit out of it, I guess. So why aren't you talking about it? I'm just raw and real about it. Just
that's the beauty about the Discords. I find that when we get into those smaller communities, I mean, they do run the risk of becoming echo chambers, but they also, if you let the right kind of people in, we seem to be able to have civil discourse in there.
Well, you're not letting people in. You're just it's open.
Yeah, but we're not kicking people out or, anything like that either for having different political views. So, and it seems like a friendly place. There's less than 1,000 people in there, so there's not a whack of people. They have in common that they all listen to our show, and they could lean either way. and they can get along and have civil discussions in there for the most part. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen anything get out of hand in there ever. It seems to be a highly positive atmosphere where people can discuss things. And I think, I don't know what it is, but...
Well, Darren's talking about, just for people that might not be up to speed on what he's talking about, a lot of these shows and ours as well, we have our own little Discord channel. So it's kind of like our own little social media thing where people come in. There's a bunch of different little channels in there, and people just meet and chat in there, and it's perpetually going. I think it's still. I mean, it's been going for a year now.
Talking, yeah.
Yeah, it's been going for a year now, so it's not new, but it still feels new. But that place is it's a great open ideas, and there's nobody. I mean, there's people probably being a little vulgar occasionally and joking around and stuff like that, but nobody's hurting feelings or anything like that or getting their feelings hurt.
I would almost equate Discord to the social media equivalent of a podcast. Where you can probably, I don't know how you search for a Discord, but there's probably a Discord for whatever you're going through or talking about, or, there's gaming. I think it was originally for gaming, but, I'm in a couple Discords for all sorts of different reasons. And I mean, if I think of my own reason, I just make a Discord and invite people to it. So you have the ability to just make your own. I mean, that's
within our channel, you mean?
No, I just make a new one.
A whole new one?
Yeah. You could just make a Discord
one.
like your fucking Dungeons and Dragons one, Except it's yours and not someone else's.
But we have one.
I didn't make the other one. Actually, Phil did.
Yeah.
I know. I made you the Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, did you? Okay, thanks.
That's why it's called D&D Dorks.
Oh, no. We have our own outside of that one.
Oh.
Yeah.
You're on server. It's not in Grimerica.
Yeah.
Because anyone can make one.
Yeah.
Even you.
Yeah. There you go.
Well, look, you're spot on. It's so important. I've made this a pretty key point to my writing for a long time to make sure when you're, expressing your view online, not fall to this bullshit, anger, violence. There's so much, abuse on all these levels online. Anonymity really brings out a lot of craziness in people, especially when, most people don't have any fucking idea what they're talking about. So it's just an embarrassment on multiple levels. But at the same time, once you start to learn to express yourself in a civil way, but also be open in the way you express. Oh, this is sort of the evidence I've come across. This is where I'm sort of leaning instead of going, no, this is the bloody answer. You start to attract really good conversations. And so I've noticed in YouTube comments or commentary after videos and stuff like that, you can get some really good information out of that, because a lot of the listeners, they're consumers. So they're consuming all these different podcasts and informational sources, and they might not have a massive platform of their own, but they've certainly got some key insights I've found into, amalgamating all these different theories and getting a sort of a more clearer perspective through all the noise, all the mess. So, yeah, look, it's one of those evolutions that you've got to go through. You can get frustrated. I remember when I first started online, I was getting frustrated and trying to tell people how to think and whatnot. And, if I look back on where I was back then, and even though I probably had some great insight back then, I've revolutionized my mind and heart since then. So, that's just, you've got to remain open to that journey of enlightenment, that journey of empowerment, and represent yourself accordingly when you do speak online. But yeah, the independent media, obviously there is a pretty clear conviction throughout the independent media that Joe Rogan has succumbed to for whatever reason, whether or not he's been spoken to or whether or not he's just he's lost courage, whatever it is. Maybe he's just there's a lot of the pan-psychist materialist that he's been having on there, and maybe he's just comfortable in that little box and he's being genuine, but he's not actually getting to the cutting edge that you can get in these areas. I don't know, but it definitely seems sus as where he started out. That's certainly something I'll never compromise on. The only time I come across as ambiguous is if I don't know the fucking answer.
Yeah.
So a lot of the time, for example, with Trump or QAnon, for example, I lean towards Trump being a Zionist shill, but I could be completely wrong on that, and I have no idea what's going on with QAnon. It seems legit on heaps of levels, but on other levels it doesn't seem legit. So I guess this is a good segue for you guys where you sit there, because I'm like, I don't know. I lean particular ways, but I'm just going to remain open, and I really see it as a golden opportunity to unite the independent media. If we start going, all right, look, we have different ways we lean, but ultimately we don't really know the bloody answer. So that's a good way of unifying through discussion and going, well, here's evidence for this, and here's opposite evidence, and having a chat that helps to not just unite the platforms, but also unite the followers, the people who are following these platforms. Because again, ultimately, we really don't have a lot of these answers all the way right. I mean, I just did a post today actually on Facebook. I'll quickly read it, and it's having a little bit of a dig, at the ridiculousness of people to come to strict conclusions about stuff. And you would have read this in my book, Graham, as well, where I was sort of pointing to the fact of there's all these coexisting frequencies of consciousness, and even though they might seem contradictory on the surface, they might actually be unified at a deeper level, a deeper constructural level. So I wrote a simulation, question mark, a spirit quest, question mark, an energy farm, an accident, all of the above. Well, we'll never know. We'll never ever know the ultimate truth, not in this form anyway, because it's literally impossible. And I do believe that even if we get to the core answer of this construct, there's still constructs and dimensions all well above that we can't even tap into. So ultimate truth is ridiculous given this amnesia state we're all in. So in the meantime, meantime, explore, grow, give back, and some fun. It's just a waste of a grand opportunity. So what I was trying to do with that is transmute this mystery to action. The action can be giving back and sharing information, but doing our own personal development stuff and all that great stuff, but also have some bloody fun at the same time because we're in a ridiculous state at the moment where you can spend all your time and energy in rabbit holes and basically self-abuse, self-harm, and all that sort of stuff. So anyway, I know that was a long-winded approach, but where do you guys sit with Trump, QAnon? Do you agree with me, or do you think that maybe I should be leaning another way?
I don't know. I used to be I was following the Q and all that, but to be honest, I'm just at a place in my life where I don't give a fuck. I'm just
recently, like,
yeah, for about 2 months now, a month and a half. I mean, the QAnon stuff I kind of dropped like 3 or 4 months ago because it was just dragging on, and now I'm just at the point where I'm not following I'm not following any of it. It just became too much. Get caught up. I mean, we talked about supporting Trump on the show in the beginning because he seemed like he was, the legit, and he was going to drain the swamp and all this stuff, and we just got a bunch of shit from a bunch of fans.
Not too much.
And it was just, it's just still something that, like you said, it's the lines are drawn. So to keep our community civil, it's just best not to talk about it in a lot of ways. But it still
comes up though. I feel like it's more easy to talk about it now.
I mean, whatever's going to happen is going to happen in a lot of ways, I think. I
agree with you, though. I mean, that's kind of where I'm at, is I go back and forth, is he a Zionist shill, or is he really, like, the amount of hate and the amount of hypocrisy that's just glowing through the other, it's mind-blowing to me. It feels like it can't be set up. It can't be
like they're freaking out.
Yeah, it goes too deep. Like they're legitimately freaking out about him. Like I could see in the past before him that, yeah, it's kind of like there's a puppet thing going on with left and right, and it's all the deep state and it's all the war state. And I mean, with him, it seems different and it feels different. And what I sense just being on the fringe a little bit is that people that are semi-supporters of Trump are quick to call him out, where the other side won't call any of their own people out. Like, I really feel like people, like, we'll call him out on bullshit, but it will also just be open to maybe there's some good going on here, I mean, there's enough fucking crap over the past and deep state and all that kind of stuff that, I mean, it's glaringly obvious now how fucked up things have been. I mean, things will never be the same again now. I mean, it really
doesn't seem to be, yeah.
Everybody's seeing through all the bullshit in the past, and I mean, you know, it's just one fucking media fumble after the other. You know, they're calling Trump out on this, and yet Obama said the exact same thing a couple years ago. I mean, it's just now there's no holding that together, right? The media is just biting itself. They're eating themselves alive. They are. I mean, they keep every time they open their mouth about something, there's a meme that goes out and it's got a video of, like I said, Obama or Clinton saying something that was worse not too long ago. So I think
North Korea thing's an interesting development.
And we just had a guest on who's a channeler of the 7 white winged the nine white winged consciousness or something. And I mean, it was really interesting because she had a take on Trump from the channeling, and it was really interesting that she was able to enter into this political arena with quite a bit of positivity and common sense, really. But it wasn't like super dogmatic. And again, she would have called Trump out on shit as well. Like I feel like that side is not as blindly supporting him, but I'm like that could be me in my echo chamber, or us in our echo chamber here, as the other side blindly supports them. Like where's the people calling out the violence that's happening from groups like Antifa? Like that's what really frustrates me. There should be no fucking call for violence. Like you shouldn't be able to punch anybody in the head for believing anything. Like I thought that we were way past that as a society here in North America, and yet there's media won't talk about it. They fucking gloss over it. The leaders won't call it out. Like, how can that be happening right now?
Hatchets, fucking size and shit.
You know, it's mind blowing to me. Anyways, that's my little rant for that.
And I think to myself, what a wonderful,
what a wonderfully fucked up world.
Portland is lost.
Right, I shouldn't sing. Definitely not my forte. Yeah, no, you're right. And there's evidence on both sides, isn't it? Maybe it is simply that he's working with the Zionists to get rid of the bloody pedophile ring. Who bloody knows? I mean, you just really don't know at the end of the day. And I think if we just open it up like that and have a discussion, be honest about it, and go, well, there's evidence to support bloody both views, then we might actually move forward in a bit more of a positive direction about it.
I mean, what's wrong with hoping that might be the case? I mean, and not putting all your eggs in that basket, but hoping for a better world. I mean, that's all I want. A better world, right? You know,
does seem like a lot of
less abuse on kids and all that. And is that true? Is that fake news or not? I mean, that's, I guess, what we got to do is go into, instead of spreading news about pedophiles being arrested, are they being arrested?
Yeah,
the 2,300 of them or something I saw the other day. I mean, is that
the problem too? Is when you can't trust anyone with the news anymore. Who do you trust?
Yeah.
Yeah, no. I mean, and ultimately, regardless if he is authentic or not, I mean, he's definitely a collective expression, an archetypal expression of the collective conscious of humanity right now. We are questioning on all these bloody levels. It might be split into 1,000 shards or whatever that saying is.
Well, what if,
at least... Sorry?
Well, I was going to say, what if, that's the other edge of that sword, is what if fucking Trump's here to do just that? Bring in the era of fucking fake news, and that's all by design. And now it's like you can't trust anything anymore. So now the waters are so murky that it might as well be back like it was in the 30s, and we can tell you whatever the fuck we want, because now you don't know what to believe. We'll just publish 100 different versions of it, each one crazier than the next.
Yeah, well, you might be right. I mean, even just looking at Trump's story, he's wanted to become president for bloody 30 years. I watched doco on all that, and he seems like a bloody outsider. He really does. He didn't seem part of the political elite class. But then there's the accusations that his uncle was who took bloody
Tesla.
Tesla's work and all the rest of it. And I heard your stuff on free energy too. I'm interviewing a guy from Australia on free energy soon as well. So I want to add to that conversation. It was a great discussion. So that's another bloody pile of stuff. But yeah, look, this is the point. We need to have these conversations, and I think we need to remain a little bit open about them to get anywhere with it. So there's Darren, you've just thrown another major spanner in the bloody works. Could be right. Could be just part of the whole scheme. And
it's hard to believe that it's been a couple of years now, hasn't it? a year and a half, let's say, and he's done a lot of good for America. I mean, I really do believe that, and they don't seem to realize it. But I mean, what I guess is being left out of the picture is that going to eventually benefit the world, right? If everybody takes care of themselves a little bit, almost like an individual part of the collective, I mean, maybe that'll benefit it. I mean, globalism isn't working for people. Like, it's not working for anybody, I don't think. At least a middle class, lower class level. It's harder for everybody to make ends meet right now. And, I think there could have been a lot more good done in the world and all the poorer countries and the third world countries than is being done. I mean, if he's shutting down part of the war, I don't know. Who knows? I mean, it's
You've said too much.
Yeah, I've said.
You've already said too much.
Shut
Reel
up.
it in.
I gotta really. Yeah.
Oh, look, mate, there's ultimate solutions that we should be thinking about implementing for sure. Trump's not doing these things, like the whole central banking system, the banking system in general, the money supply in general needs to be made sovereign. We need to have open source bloody everything. We need to think about moving into some sort of let's call it an abundance-based system instead of this scarcity-based system. That is definitely on the agenda as we move into being an advanced species over the coming centuries. Who knows what we'll do in our lifetime. Electoral reform, just bloody dissolve this two-party tyranny system. Like, this is things that the independent media should be focusing on. These are realistic solutions, not this anarchist movement that just wants to tear down all government. Like, that's just going to result with destruction and bullshit. It's not a way of transitioning to an authentic system. So electoral reform might be a realistic first step to actually take back the government. What else you got? Like the pharmaceuticals, allow this natural therapies and medicines, plant medicines come through. If Trump was really genuine, I'd imagine what he'd be doing is deconstructing these echo chambers and algorithms on Facebook and YouTube. Like with this, that is a step he needs to take. He's also this is like bloody obvious. If we're going to move forward, it's just going to get more divisive and more smaller in terms of how we're working in this sort of independent space. So that's a really good area. I'd imagine that Robert David Steele, I don't know if you've ever had Robert David Steele on your channel. Have you heard of him?
No.
He's an ex-CIA officer, and he's got some great stuff. I mean, he's pro-Trump. He believes in Trump, as last time I heard. I don't know, but Robert should bloody well be hired by Trump, because he is right up there in terms of practical solutions that we could implement right now, including the expansion of awareness through the masses, through having he's got different mechanisms to achieve all that. So there are solutions that we can implement. And what my suggestion has been for a long time is that we really consider that concept of sovereignty and based all our interactions, like you mentioned before, Darren, or might have been you, Graham, that people are wanting to punch each other in the face because of an idea or a belief. The only time we need to punch somebody in the face is if you need to protect yourself. In fact, I had a party on the weekend, and some random dude attacked me, and I had to protect myself. Like, there's nothing wrong with doing that. But it's most certainly we need to have that respect of sovereignty, the golden rule: do no harm unless being harmed, so to speak.
Yeah.
So I think that moves into one of the questions I got for you, Darren. The smoke screen of libertarianism, this sovereignty-based party. What do you mean by that? Graham wrote that you've been thinking about this as a smoke screen. So the stage is yours, mate. I'm very interested.
I don't know why you would have put that in there. I'm actually going to start talking about that in about 10 minutes here to kind of deepen my understanding of it. But I'm starting to...
well, you were heading down that political path locally here a little bit.
I'm a registered libertarian still.
Yeah, but then you have people...
But I don't think, I've been talking to some people, my buddy Dave, and he's managed to convince me that... Or not convince me, but he's managed to get me to take another look at it. And I'm, at this stage of the game, I don't think maybe the government's not the problem. It's just the people that are in it. So,
and that's kind of what Phillip was saying, I think, about the electoral reform. And there's some things that maybe the independent media could be doing
you need to electoral reform. You just got to get all these fucking crooked fuckers out of there and replace them with proper fucking people.
The system creates this corruption, though. So the system needs shifting at the same time as replacing it with genuine people.
You cut out all the money. All the money has to be gone. first. All the money's gone, and you get like 2 years at a time or whatever, and that's it. And then,
take the lobbying system out of it, take all these political donations bullshit. We've got the capacity to create our own money supply. So therefore, anybody who wants to run can tap into the country's own, money supply and get money that way for advertising and for whatever the campaign costs are, and do it that way. That's part of David Steele's package. You guys should really interview him.
Yeah, for sure we will. Yeah.
I don't agree with everything that he has to say, and we never will. No one will ever agree with everything. But fuck, he's got some great approaches to tackling all this sort of stuff.
Yeah. Well, it's starting to seem like without that government, things aren't going to get any better without some sort of control. Getting rid of the government might not help out. And if you get the right people in the fucking government, then they can get rid of the bullshit laws that piss me off anyway.
And then you've got like Russia, China, these big superpowers are rising, and they've got massive cultural differences. What do you want to do? Just chuck away our government and let China? I wouldn't do that over in Australia. We chuck away our government, then China just comes in and occupies us. Fuck that. It's a ridiculous notion.
Do you think China's going to come occupy you?
If we had no government, they probably would. Wouldn't you?
No.
No, we wouldn't.
No, man. I'm good.
We're in Canada, man. We're fine over here.
We're good.
I don't want to occupy anybody.
I don't want to occupy anyone.
I love that authentic answer there, Darren. You're like, no, I wouldn't.
I'm good.
You passed the test.
Perfect.
But yeah, look, but that's what I mean. Like, these cultures don't necessarily think the same. And this is how we've been operating for so long. It's conquest. It's imperialism. This is how we've operated for so long. We're not at any.
So let's just get rid of all the governments and just see what happens. Let's just try it. But then we're trying this one and it ain't going great. What do we got to lose?
Yeah, well, that's where monopolies started rising in different corporate areas, and it's just a different way of doing it. From my point of view, it's a whole philosophical and ethical shift internally that we need to help create, on the ground through the independent media, grassroots, get people to really think about sovereignty and caring for others and caring for the environment, all that sort of stuff. And then probably that's the way we're going to shift.
Then get them to run for government.
Sorry?
And then get them to run for government.
Yeah, and localization's a really good approach too. They just go and speak to your mayors and people on the ground, your councils, or whatever the system is for you guys, and build awareness that way, which I've done here. Met the mayor, actually mates with the mayor. Because I wanted to hear what he had to say, and he actually was quite conscious about these things. So, there's all these different approaches we can take. It's so convoluted. There's no one simple answer.
Weren't you in that system for a while though, and it was pretty disheartening? I mean, I don't know. I feel like our local politics, just like our local media and all, is just so it's just fake and corrupted, just like the bigger one. I mean, I feel like at even the local level, it's just gross. I don't know how we could get involved, even at that level. Weren't you involved in that in something for a while there?
Yeah, I worked for the federal government doing policy development, project management, that sort of stuff. And then the state government, social work and whatnot. Yeah. And then I actually was working with the Australian Sovereignty Party as well. I was the media manager or campaign manager. Yeah. With them as well. They have a stellar lineup of policies, man. It's just unbelievable. It broke down, couldn't get the funding, shit just didn't go well for us, and unfortunately couldn't move it anywhere. But there's some great platforms out there, and I'm not suggesting that's the only way is to get local. I just think there's all these different angles that we can possibly take, and just again move forward in a general direction towards sovereignty and love. As you mentioned, Darren, it's all about love, and really respect that in terms of how you interact with your reality. And have some fun at the same time. It's just, again, there's no easy answers to this sort of stuff, but we can be taking more intelligent approaches, in my view.
Yeah, for sure.
Bingo, bango.
Bingo, bango. All right. The most important hoax of our time, Graham. What are you talking about there, mate?
Did I say that?
You did.
Did I put that in the email?
Not a hoax.
I think it's.
I've been fascinated by the most important hoax of our time.
Well, it's global warming.
Oh, God.
Yeah. No, it is. I mean, it's complete control mechanism. I mean, yet I just heard this scientist talking about it, and he's really got his argument down against all the climate deniers, that all they say is that climate's always changed and all that. And then he throws out, well, there was a mile of ice here 12,000 years ago, and ever since then it's been really calm. But he glosses over the Maunder minimum and the mini ice age and all the real things that are going up and down. So I was trying to listen to that with an open mind and maybe, but it's just so hard for me to buy into it, especially after we did this show recently on geoengineering. And it's the most fantastic presentation I've ever seen about the history of weather modification, all the documentation, all the real shit that's going on with weather modification. And none of that is taken into account, along with the solar cycles on this anthropogenic global warming problem. I mean, it really is. I mean, now they're talking about big carbon extractors, huge machines to extract the carbon out of the atmosphere, or the CO2.
Why
sorry,
don't we just use trees?
I mean, it's to me, it's playing around with the weather system and trying to geoengineer a planet is fuckery, man. It's just we shouldn't be messing with the weather. I don't think we should be. Who knows what kind of? Don't tell me you have the science to predict what's going to happen if we're messing with the weather. Like I just think it's disgusting. That's why I feel like that's the most, even over and above the UFO cover up and all that, I feel like that's kind of affecting us. I mean, we're paying carbon taxes now here. I mean, everything's going up for us. Like, we've got carbon taxes, gas is more expensive, our heating, our electrical, all our fucking little utilities are going through the roof. We're paying carbon taxes and then our government's throwing money all over the world, sending it to the Clinton Foundation and wherever else.
Bango, bango.
And and they want to blame us for the climate heating up.
So what do you blame?
I think we affect it for sure. We have an effect. So I'm not saying that we shouldn't clean up our pollution and all that. Like, I'm totally environmentalist in that way. Like, I think we're destroying the planet. But let's be careful about how much of an effect we do have on it.
So what do you think is the primary driver of climate change on our planet?
The sun or the fucking cycle.
Nature.
Mother Nature's a harsh mistress.
Yeah, I mean, we're still in an ice age. If you look back long enough, we're still in an ice age. I think that's from what we've had a bunch of guests on, like scientists that are showing the other side of it, and there's just too much fuckery going on with the science and the emails and all that stuff going back to. And I know maybe I'm stuck in that bubble, but I just feel like the natural cycles of the climate, and then we're probably adding to it a little bit. I'm not saying we're not, and I think the whole side of people that are denying anthropogenic climate change, like, I want to say the whole thing because we're not climate deniers or climate change deniers, but the people on that side are not saying that we're not having any effect. Of course we're having an effect. A negative effect, probably, but to what extent? Take into account the geoengineering, take into account the solar cycles, take into account the long history of climate changes over the past. You got, a guy like Randall Carlson on the show and all that, and he really puts the things into perspective. And, we came out of an ice age pretty fucking fast. And it warmed up really, really hot over years, right? Like, wasn't it quite a few degrees over years? I mean, I don't have it all in front of me right now, but
I don't know either off the top of my head.
I don't know. It's just
So what do you think the hoax is about then? Why do you think
control and money? I think. I mean, that's, for a long time I didn't know. I'm like, why are they pushing this so hard? But I really do think it's just control and money and a way to tax the whole population. Like, they have to have a global tax, right? Forget about all these extra taxes that we have nationally. They need something globally to get everybody in to, trade all these credits back and forth, shift the wealth from the richer parts to the third world countries so they can profit. It's, again, it's just transferring wealth all over the place as well.
I think you hit the nail on the head there as well, with the global tax, because that's a prerequisite or a stepping stone towards bloody global government straight there, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah. If we've got a unified issue, we need to unify. And how do we do so? global government, global
Yeah.
economy, global religion,
Exactly.
global everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
When I was on Alex's Skeptico not long ago, he was talking about the global warming hoax, and I do agree. It's quite obvious that the planet's climate is highly impacted by the sun. It's very, very clear. We're going into a grand solar minimum, which is actually, I think it's every 400 years, but it's actually been admitted in mainstream science and mainstream media now as well. Even though they're saying, "Oh, don't worry, it's just going to be a little blip in our path towards global warming," right? So that's how they justify it. But I said to Alex, I said, "Look, the single biggest issue the single biggest issue we should be focusing on isn't climate change, it's the decimation of our natural systems." And what I meant by that, I probably should elaborate it, but what I actually meant by that is in terms of our impacts. The single biggest issue that we need to focus on in terms of our impacts are how we're decimating our natural systems, our life biodiversity, causing this further desertification and deforestation and all those sorts of things. That's very, very bloody real. But the single biggest issue that we probably do have, not based on our own action, but based on how reality works, is the global cooling that we're about to go through. Because if this global grand solar minimum has an impact of even just a couple of degrees cooler on our planet, that's going to affect our food systems to massive, massive degrees. And we need to be able to transform our infrastructure to be able to accommodate that, including having a lot more stuff grown inside under lights and those sorts of things. So that's definitely the biggest issue that we need to face. There's so much discussion and debate around all this at the moment too. Have you heard of the expanding Earth theory compared to tectonic plate shift theory?
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
That was one of our favorite episodes.
Man.
We had Neil Adams on. It was fantastic.
Neil Adams, is it?
Yeah. He
It was in the 160s. Yeah.
he really put together like visions of the planets in our solar system, and he did a really good animation of if you actually contract them properly and they kind of fit right back together, and he does it with the Earth as well.
Yeah, it's something
And
else.
that was a pretty mind-blowing episode for us.
Yeah, well, we seem to be going into a time now where not only the sun's activity is decreasing dramatically, but we're also we've got electromagnetic field decrease as well, which means that more galactic rays and whatever this stuff that flies around space is actually hitting our planet, as well as the fact that we're actually allegedly we're moving out of sort of like a dust cloud in our solar system galaxy area, and that's been protecting us from these galactic rays. And now that we're moving out of that, so we've got like we're tripling down on these impacts on the planet. The lower sun cycle, the sun intensity, weaker electromagnetic field, and that could be maybe even potentially preceding a pole shift. So there's fucking a lot of fear porn around that as well. And then there's these rays that are getting more into our planet. And not only that, the theory of expanding Earth is that the more galactic rays and this energy coming from space, it actually goes into the core of the Earth, and the Earth is allegedly a plasma type system, not this hot molten core type system. And that plasma system actually converts all these galactic rays into actual matter. It's called
Pair production.
Yeah, pair production.
Yeah.
What's it called? Sorry.
Pair production.
Right. And then so the Earth's expanding as well. So we might even be going through a bit like a teenager goes through a growth spurt. The planet might be actually going to go through a growth spurt as well. So it's just amazing. This I know. It'd be a bit of carnage though, wouldn't it?
I always waited for one of those and never got it.
Never happened. It never happened for them. We are about out of time though, unfortunately.
Oh, really? Is it coming to the end?
Yeah, we got another show starting in like 3 minutes.
Oh, wow. All right. Well, that is the end. Well, that's not a bad way to end, but look, I think we're going to have to continue this discussion, eh? Because
we'll have to do a part 2.
Yeah, definitely. Count me in.
Yeah, that was fun. Good one.
Yep.
Graham got all riled up.
I got my grant.
Got his grant in.
All that stored energy from your lack of growth spurt.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
He collects it
All
around
right,
the
well,
office.
guys, tell the audience how they can follow you, help out the Grimerica show, and yeah, we'll go from there.
I guess everything's at the webpage, grimerica.ca or grimerica.com. grimerica.ca/support. If you want to send us, help us along. We don't do any corporate overlords or anything like that, or advertisements or nothing.
We have a bit more YouTube presence now as well, and all podcast
Until
platforms.
they kick us off.
Yeah.
All the links are on the homepage, so.
Yeah.
I'll provide them too. So thanks for joining me, guys. Legends.
Yeah, thanks so
Right
much,
on.
buddy.
Thanks,
Really appreciate it.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
Will do. Cheers, guys.
Thanks.
Ciao. That was a fun one. Did you stop streaming yet, Brody? Ciao, guys.
Ciao, guys. Wow, thanks for joining us.
How many people ended up joining?